A few months ago, I had this question that I just couldn't shake. Is it too early to make that joke? Here's what's going on. I had considered this episode exploring a financial correlation between, say, Bitcoin and then the WTI, which stands for West Texas Intermediate crude oil price. Except when you go Google and start searching around for answers on this specific question, what you learn is that Bitcoin has no relationship to oil, and that none of the cryptocurrency assets do, as shown on the screen, except in today's theory. You see, I'm going to say that all of that changed in December 2021, and it's just something I noticed this week. Welcome to Unusual Due Diligence. I am your host, Poseidon, god of the sea and animate milkshake. In today's quote, well, that's kind of weird and a little bit odd, end quote, special episode, I have a short story in the form of 4 charts. I chose the number 4 because that's a lucky number to some people. It also looks like the letter H when you hold the calculator upside down, which will be important here in a moment. The charts in question are the WTI crude oil price, anchor, AMP, and the Bitcoin price charts for 1 year. When you stack all 4 of these on the same screen, there simply doesn't appear to be anything interesting going on. However, and this is where I'm going to ask you to suspend your rational mind and consider a late night thought I had while paying for groceries and gas this last weekend. Quote, I wonder if more people are finding a real need to cash out their crypto holdings to pay for food and gas, end quote. And that is an interesting theory, but let's jump right into something neat and somewhat connected. There's 3 steps here. First, you need to get the charts for all 4 assets. Again, that's the WTI crude oil price, anchor, and Bitcoin. Second, you need something that will allow you to resize the charts to fit, and then use opacity levels to figure out how to see 2 charts on one screen. Third, you need a subscription to this channel. Let's take a look at 2 assets we expect to be similarly correlated with one another, even though conceptually the 2 projects are solving, well, one is solving payments and the other is solving decentralized platform infrastructure. So let's call that different and yet the same. And on the screen, I have those 2 charts layered together. It's hard not to find these 2 charts just immensely fascinating. Look at the consistent harmony between these 2 lines. Now, let's put anchor and amp into the Bitcoin orbit. 3 charts total are on the screen now. Look at this gravitational wave here, how they all follow the same general trend lines. For me, the craziest feature of this chart is how consistent anchor is in trading along the lines of Bitcoin. There was a time those 2 had broken each other's orbits, and yet something has brought them back together again. Okay, let's do something interesting with these charts. The little weird thing I noticed that I wanted to share with you today. So if you take the WTI crude oil price and have it on the screen and then layer over the AMP chart, let's say, it just doesn't look like anything is going on between those 2. And repeat that process with anchor and Bitcoin, and as shown on the screen, it is the same story. But this is the weird part. Flip the vertical axis of AMP, anchor, or Bitcoin. Flip that axis of their price charts and resize slightly so that the dates all kind of line up. Notice what happens as is shown on the screen. Here's AMP. Notice the trend line here, and now here's anchor. And again, a very similar curve is being followed. Lastly, here's Bitcoin. So it doesn't look like there's much happening here until you look closer at these dates. Notice here this weird drop that each of these had in December, and then how ever since then, these asset prices started trading in lockstep with one another. As my people back home say, quote, okay, that's pretty weird, end quote. This is Unusual Due Diligence. In today's episode, we looked at some weird charts and flipped some upside down. Make waves, my friends.